Welcome back to Grasping the Gridiron. As always, I'm your host, Zach Thummel, and thank you for listening. Today, we'll be going over Week 1 and my reaction, and then we'll also go through a little preview for Week 2 in college football, so stay tuned. Okay, so starting off with this WSU-Idaho game, and then I'll go around the Pacific Northwest, and then kind of get into some other things around college football and just my Week 1 thoughts in general. So with this WSU-Idaho game, it was just very, very odd. And being there in person made it even more odd. Just because it was kind of boring, but also there was so much that wasn't going on from a coaching standpoint as far as adjustments and changes that it was kind of mind-boggling. And so I have my split chart here, defense and offense in my notes, and I'm just kind of going to go note by note and give you my analysis on what I saw. So I obviously watched the game in person, and then that Sunday I went back and watched the full game on tape, play-by-play, and saw, and added to my list. So, and these are all things, for the most part, that Jimmy Rogers at least touched on a surface area level when he was at the press conference, both after the game and on Monday when he had looked at the film and had some time to reflect and talk to the players. So, if you're a Coug fan, it's very, very promising to hear your head coach talk about the things that are generally noticed by people that have looked at the tape. And he's not blaming anyone but himself. While acknowledging that the players need to make changes themselves. It's just it's hard coming into the FBS, and I have faith that he's going to be able to make the right corrections. Although I think that first game just was disappointing and very mind-boggling as to why certain adjustments weren't made, and then as to why certain ones were made, and potentially stalling out the momentum. But anyway, here I'll get into the defense here, and what it was weird was, for running a 4-3, our edge players or defensive end players didn't seem to set the edge. And yeah, it could be by design. It could be the outside linebackers and safeties are helping with setting that edge. But for a team like Idaho that consistently used multiple tight end sets and fullbacks and took advantage of that, there was no adjustment. And so these D ends were playing like a 4 technique instead of a 5 technique, with their inside foot lined up on the outside foot of the tackle. They're going head up on the tackle, sometimes almost seemingly inside shade. And that allowed Idaho to just have their tackles down block, or with the help of a tight end, double team down block. And they were running right off of their butts and getting major yards with Art Williams and Elisha Cummings, the other back. And Joshua Wood was able to scramble really, really well, going for just over 100 yards on the ground. And that leads me to my next point. There was just no structure in the rush lanes, and Rogers addressed this in his press conference. But it seems, it seemed from the edges there was pressure, and we were getting pressure from the 3 technique occasionally, but there was no continuity to the pocket developed by the pass rushers, allowing Joshua Wood to just step left or right or up into the middle and take off, having larger rushing lanes. And I think as the season goes on, that was the first game, and Cale Reeder, who is a safety for WSU and a hard hitter, was out with an injury, and there were a couple other players out with injury as well. So it's just going to be interesting to see, as WSU sprinkles certain guys coming back in and gaining some continuity, what that'll look like and how they adjust that. But overall the defense played phenomenal, and so these are just minor little ticks. The major concern and the major criticism that I have is the offense. And Idaho wasn't doing anything too complex. They were running a 3-4 with like a 5-2 look. And they had a nose tackle head up on the center. And what Washington State tried to do in the run game was run inside zone and in a variety of other things in the middle, and they just weren't. Idaho was doing a great job under Court Dennison, the defensive coordinator, who's a linebacker coach as well. They were doing a great job with their mics, blitzing and filling gaps, right where Washington State was presumably running the ball. And that's the thing, was it seemed that there was never the changes necessary offensively to create a spark. And they were running, Washington State was running the ball out of gun sets. And, when you have a running back to your right or left, it signals to the defense that the ball, unless it's a counter, is probably going, to the opposite direction of where the running back's lined up on. And so that's where it's really difficult as a fan, is you have a clear statement by Idaho: we're daring you to pass the ball. And then when Washington State ended up throwing the ball in some of these crunch time situations or airing it out a little bit more to combat that statement by Idaho defensively, they had success. And, were able to complete little curl routes to Tony Freeman, crossing routes to Josh Meredith, to Jeremiah Noga. The offense under Jackson Potter looked very fluid when they were throwing the ball, and there was, a mixed rhythm. But, I think when Danny Freund, who I really like what he's trying to do here, I think when he, came out and just didn't run anything but inside runs, the first couple drives against on first and second down against these fronts, and then the offensive line, was having the communication issues that they had. It was just a little bit concerning to not have that lack of adjustment, but I'm fully confident that's going to be adjusted moving forward. And then, on that note, the offensive line was one of the worst performances that I've seen from an FBS offensive line. The communication was just terrible, or lack of communication, I should say. It really, really was a cause for concern there, because they were running very, very simple concepts. And I noticed this, and I saw, some Coug fans with some Twitter threads or X threads earlier and talking similarly about this on there, about how the offensive linemen just were seemingly trying to run one concept in inside zone, but we're not doing the correct thing. And we had offensive linemen going to the next level instead of creating double teams. And that, I really, really hope that can get shored up, because that offense looked absolutely pathetic running the ball. And it was just flat embarrassing in terms of the rushing output and rushing totals and fumbles. And I think this will all be addressed, but it was a tough look for Washington State, only beating Idaho 13-10. And I would have thought with a Jimmy Rogers experienced coaching staff, there would have been more adjustments on both ends of the field in terms of just simple looks and concepts being thrown at them. But it was week one, and there were a wide variety of new players on this team, 70 plus, and so that'll be really, really interesting to see how they gel together. And all that matters is that they got the win for right now and within that locker room. So it'll be very, very intriguing to see how these guys gel throughout the rest of the season, and if this coaching staff can make the adjustments necessary and to win some ball games late. All right, so I'll go through each team in the Northwest and give a week one analysis of what I saw from afar for the other teams, and then also give everyone a team grade here in the Northwest. And so I'll start out with with Washington here, and Washington played Colorado in what was a really really close game in the first half at least, and then it started going back and forth, and Washington looked like they had some life, and then it was able to score 10 points in the fourth quarter to ultimately win 38-21. And Jonah Coleman got going on the ground. He had over 170 yards rushing, and he had 2 touchdowns on the ground. So I'm looking to the University of Washington to be a ground and pound team and continue to play balance with Damon Williams as well. But yeah, Washington's going to be really, really fun to see how they progress throughout the season. Going to be a tough Big Ten schedule like Oregon, but they'll be a team that the Big Ten is not going to sleep on due to their ability to blend the pass and run game together. And they also have what looks like a really great defense. Only giving up 21 points in their first game. All things considered, pretty solid. So I give them a B+ for week 1 grade. And then this week they play UC Davis at home, and that one's at 8 p.m. And so that'll be fun to see how they do against an FCS opponent, and maybe they can kind of run up the score a little bit. And Washington B+ week 1, and then they play UC Davis this week. Now for Oregon, they took care of business handily against Montana State, 59-13, and I give Oregon just a flat A grade. Overall, they looked really, really solid, and I'm just excited to see how they can continue to improve upon what they did. Dante Moore throws for 3 touchdowns. Noah Whittington got going on the ground. Malik Benson was a guy through the air that did well, and with Whittington and Benson both having touchdowns through the ground and air respectively. But the more interesting thing to me will be how this defense holds up against better competition going forward, and where Mekhi Hughes, the Tulane transfer, factors into all of this, and what his absence was truly about against Montana State. So. Like I said, I give Oregon an A, and then this next week they will play Oklahoma State, and so that'll be an interesting uptick in talent that they'll be playing against, and so that'll be an awesome game to see how Oregon does against a better team at home this Saturday at 12:30. Now on to Oregon State, and they had a pretty rough start to the season, all things considered. They played Cal at home, and Cal beat them 34-15. And their quarterback Sagapolatele, he was unbelievable and looks like the next big thing in college football. Not sure what that means for Cal if he ends up staying at Cal and trying to help them dominate in the ACC. But he's a guy that could be the number 1 transfer portal quarterback if he continues to play like this. Left-hander reminded me a little bit of Michael Penix. Maybe it's just the left-handed thing, but he was throwing incredible balls, just dropping them in the breadbasket, throwing with great touch over the middle. He seems like a guy that really has that touch to feather and make every single throw. And I think NFL scouts are going to love that. And he's got the size, and so. Cal just ran away with this one in Corvallis, which was a really, really big sign of concern because I'm high on Trent Bray as an overall coach, and he's a defensive-minded guy with that 4-2-5 style defense. And, when you give up 34 points at home, it's not a good sign for your defense moving forward, especially, as they play opponents like Texas Tech and Oregon coming up here in mid-September. So, Oregon State and Trent Bray are going to have to make some adjustments, and I think they will. Coming up this next week, they'll play Fresno State at home on September 6th, 12:30. But yeah, anyways, for week 1, I give Oregon State a D-, and they have an opportunity to respond this week against Fresno State at home as well. So. That'll be a really, really crucial game for them, playing against a future conference opponent in Fresno State. And Boise State, lastly here for the Pacific Northwest update and preview. So in week 1, Boise State just got absolutely throttled by South Florida in a game where, it was all South Florida seemingly from from the third quarter on. It was pretty close in the first half, but that South Florida just ran away with it, scoring 24 points in the second half to Boise's 0. So the question's going to be, for Boise State losing that bad, 34 points to 7 on your own. I mean, you have a touchdown in the first quarter, and then you have nothing the rest of the game. And the question's going to be Maddox Madsen going forward for Boise State. I really question him at the leadership helm. He went 25 for 46 for 225 yards and a touchdown. So besides that first quarter and those first few drives, he really just was incredibly inaccurate with the ball, 21 incompletions. And Sire Gaines could never really get going, and Latrell Capels had a decent game. But, to give up 34 points to South Florida going forward, when you're Boise State and you're supposed to be this group of 5, future group of 6, team that's going to dominate and be that one to potentially come out in the college football playoff this year and beyond, it's really disappointing going forward, because this is not at all how you wanted to start your season. And so, I give Boise State an F grade for week 1, especially just getting throttled by what should be a lesser opponent in theory. But they have an opportunity to respond tomorrow, Friday at 6 p.m. At home against Eastern Washington. So an FCS opponent, and I'm thinking they'll take care of business in that one. Thank you for listening to Grasping the Gridiron, and this season's going to be really fun here in college football, and I'll be coming back here with more Seahawks content as the NFL season comes upon us here, and I'll just continue with the content, and you guys, on YouTube, Spotify, like, subscribe, share, and make sure to give me some suggestions on what you'd like to see as far as content. And, as always, thank you for listening.